Well, Ryan, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, this is my second year in college.
Okay.
SMC.
Okay.
I'm majoring in accounting.
Okay.
And I went to Berrien Springs High School, where I participated in a few projects that were relevant to income taxes.
Okay. When you say participated in some projects, were these through the school? Was it a club?
It was for an assignment. We do a senior project at the end. It's a graduation requirement, and it's a big project where it requires a physical aspect where you go out and do some type of activity related to what your career pathway is. And mine was accounting, so I went out and did VITA, which is volunteer income tax assistance.
Okay.
And they're all volunteers, and they prepare taxes for less privileged families.
Maybe underserved.
Yeah, underserved or less fortunate, and they wouldn't be able to pay the fee to have a professional tax preparer.
Okay. So tell me the process. I assume that you are in an off-site environment.
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing this manually? Is there a computer system that you're using?
Yes. The sites are usually the one that I go to the most, or the one that I went to the most, was the Niles Library.
Okay.
And they had like 4 mobile computer setups that you could just pull out and hook up, and you could do it on the computer. And we used a tax software called TaxWise.
Okay. And so explain to me the process that you would take that client through to prepare their taxes.
All right. Well, first there's generally a greeter at the door, and they sign in, and they're all appointments. They're all set up in appointments, and they fill out their quality intake review form, which just gives us the basics.
Now, do you ever have to help them with that, or are they pretty much on their own?
If they can do it on their own, they'll do it on their own. But we always come around and make sure that they're doing it all right, and if they need help, we'll talk to them about it, walk them through it, and tell them what it's about and what it's asking, and we can help them. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, generally, somebody will come, and the coordinator will come and say, all right, this person's next on the list, why don't you go grab them? So you'll go introduce yourself, have them come over to your computer, sit them down, maybe have a tiny little bit of small talk, and then get to work on their taxes.
Okay. Now, do you then prepare a paper document for them, or do you submit this electronically?
Well, it is electronic submission, but we will print out a copy of it for them, and we'll have a copy for our records, and then we'll have a copy for them.
Okay.
So they do get a copy, but we do electronic mass submission.
Okay, okay, okay. And I see right now that you are doing internship at Berrien, is it RESA?
RESA.
Okay.
It's actually an acronym, and it's a Regional Educational Service Agency.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about what your internship is there.
That one, I got in when I was a senior in high school as a co-op, and as I went on to college, they were like, we like how you work and we want to keep you on. So my title is an intern. But I generally do the same stuff I did as a co-op.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm better at it.
And what is some of that same stuff that you do?
I work for CTE, which is Career and Technical Education. So we run...
And is that through this RESA?
Yeah, through the RESA.
Okay.
And it's share time programs. So if you're at this school and you want to take automotive, that school will bus you out to a school that has an auto shop, and you take a class there.
Okay.
And we run those programs.
So if I understand what you're saying is that you are scheduling the students for the bus ride to the educational program.
Well, it's more of the school pretty much does the scheduling for the buses.
Okay.
We run the program, like the money that the government gives us, we dole those out to the schools for the programs.
Okay.
You're
handling the cash.
Yeah, we're handling the cash, and we make
Not
sure...
Not physically, but...
we're making sure everything's running smooth. And
okay.
So a lot of the times I'll make brochures for our CTE programs.
Okay.
And I use Publisher and a variety of templates and stuff, and I'll create those. They're usually little trifolds, and they give you course descriptions, class requirements, what you'll get out of the class. I've had a little bit of budget work for a tech prep grant.
Okay.
One time, Mona, which was my boss, she came to me and said, this chart, which was a big chart and it had all the different spots that the money was going to be spent in. She's like, things have been moved around so much, it's so screwy. See if you can figure it out. I'm tired of it.
Dump job.
So I was like, all right, I'll figure it out. And so I spent about 2 weeks going through and sorting and figuring out where the numbers didn't match up, and it was actually a lot of work. And I remember sometimes I was so frustrated with it, and then I'd find where it went, and it'd be really nice just being able to do all that. Like, it was moving money around and figuring out where it went. And
so were you successful in getting it figured out?
I was, but the funny thing was, I came out $1 off, and I knew exactly where that dollar was. So if I moved the dollar to where it should come out right, I was $1 over. It was the weirdest thing, because the dollar was in the wrong spot before, but if I moved it to correct it, it was still off. It was just off by the opposite. Where it was 1 under, now it was 1 over.
Wow. But it took you 2 weeks then to kind of figure that out. And,
yeah, to figure out where all the money moved and which counties had what allowance of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So based upon the completion of that project, was there some suggestions that you could make to Roma to eliminate this mess happening again?
Well, when we found out the $1 thing, we went up to Gus, and he's our finance and coordinator, and he was able to tell us that I'm almost positive he said it was a rounding issue.
Okay.
Where in the system, since it was Excel,
right,
it was the rounding
up or
issue.
down.
So that was
okay.
kind of just a...
Okay. But from your experience there was really no suggestions that could be made as to what you could do differently going forward so this big mess wouldn't happen again?
I would say that they would have needed to make sure I don't know if they would have made a chart or something just to keep track of all the different ways that the money amounts changed. Because that's where it went funny, was that there's all these sorts of changes where, like, you might donate a certain amount of money to a certain thing, but then the government will come back and say, you know what, no, that doesn't fit there. You have to put it somewhere else.
You have to reallocate.
Yes, you have to reallocate. And so that happened a lot, and so money was just being moved around a lot and not really a whole lot of documentation on it.
Okay, okay.
And that's where it got all
messed up.
Yeah.
But you fixed it. Describe to me, what is your work style, your preferred work style?
Well, I also work at Roma's and Risa. And Roma's is way different than Risa because it's a cook job and you're doing a lot more physical activity. But I like the Risa because it's a lot more office-like. You're at a desk pretty much all day and typing on a computer. So I like that style where it's more you're sitting doing work rather than the
physical.
Yeah, the physical all over.
Trying to get orders placed.
Yeah, running around.
Okay, okay. So it sounds a more stable, consistent environment is your work
stable
preference.
Yeah.
What's the most important thing that you've learned in school?
That's a good one. The most important things I've learned in school, the best way to sum it all up.
And if you want to think about it, I'll ask you another question and we can come back to that because.
Yeah, that'd be good
okay, that's fine. The techniques and tools share with me the techniques and tools that you use to help organize your day.
Well, planner. Big one is planner.
Okay.
That's probably my #1 tool is that I just write everything down in that planner and then I go by that.
Okay. What happens if there's a deviation?
Adjust.
Okay. Okay. And that's important because there's always going to be deviations.
Yeah. And try to schedule, maybe, if you can, try to schedule a little bit of flex time where if a deviation happens, you can handle it.
Okay, okay. So are you ready to go back to the question or tell me what's the most important thing you've learned in school?
Yeah, just to always try your best to apply what you've learned while keeping in mind that the goal, it's to just always give it your best.
Okay.
and to make sure that people see that it's your best. Present it the best. It's your best presented at the best.
Okay. Has there ever been times that you've walked away from something and you thought I could have done better? And tell me why.
At the time, it's one of those, if high stress, with like I'm high stressed out, if I'm doing something and I'm on like a time constraint, then I might feel inclined to rush through it, where at the end I'm like, man, if I could have had more time, it would have been much better.
Or how would you, I like what you said, if I had more time, but what could you have done differently to control your time?
Better time management of myself. Like if I would have.
Would you maybe have slowed yourself down? Because sometimes we, we can plan, and I was saying there's best laid plans of mice and men, but there's times that we don't have the control of the time, and so we rush ahead thinking we got to get this done, and sometimes our rushing causes us to oversee things or to make errors.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Or communicate and say, this project has a lot of value, and you've allocated 20 minutes for me to get this done. I'll be honest with you and tell you that I'm going to do what I can to do, but I think this requires 40 minutes.
Yeah, that'd be a good solution.
And because sometimes when projects are given, the person really may not understand the whole scope of what needs to be done. You shared with me the situation where Roma brought you this file and said, you need to balance this stuff out because these numbers were all wrong. Now in her mind, she may have thought it's only going to take you a week to do it. But you shared with me it took 2 weeks.
Yeah, it did.
And may have taken somebody 3 weeks. But that communication to say, you gave me a week to get this project done. Let me give you an update where I'm at. But I'm going to need more time. Because I've been in a situation where I've rushed, and then I've realized that, number one, the time frame was unrealistic. And secondly, because I rushed, I probably made some errors.
Yeah, that's what'll happen.
Exactly. So just something to give some thought to as you go through working with projects, whether it's at Riza or even putting together a pizza. Things happen. You run out of dough. You run out of pepperoni.
You'll throw the wrong topping on.
Exactly. So you've got to start over, or somebody took the topping and didn't replace it. Now you've got to take 5 minutes to try to find whatever.
Yeah.
So, what's the biggest challenge that you have faced and overcome in the school environment, in your school environment?
I really want everything to be right. Like, I have this unrealistic expectation that I can get everything right the first time.
I think we all do, so don't feel bad.
And that's what I always try to get to, but it's really unrealistic because it's not going to happen. And then when I don't get there, it's kind of a downer. But I mean, you have to realize that you're shooting for something.
Perfection.
You're shooting for perfection, and nobody's perfect.
Yeah. But that's a good skill set to have, because that means what you're doing is that you are checking yourself along the way. But it sounds like you also recognize that it's not always going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not always. We'd like it to happen that way, but that's not going to take place. What would you like your career to be 5 years from now? Where do you see yourself?
In accounting, a firm somewhere.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it'll still be local or it could be somewhere else.
Is there a specific part of accounting that you are more drawn to than another?
I would have to say it's either just the normal like financial statements, like your income statements, balance sheets, cash flows.
Okay.
That preparing those, or I'm going back and forth with taxes.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of people in accounting that go, taxes are just ugh. But
they see it as boring
It's-
and it's ever changing.
yeah, and they find it as a big hassle. But I mean, that's where a lot of my experience lies, is in taxes, and I'm
Okay.
like debating on whether to pursue that or not.
And so what steps will you employ to determine whether tax accounting is what you want to go after or the financial aspect of accounting? Have you given that any thought?
Yeah, I'm gonna take more just general accounting classes.
Okay.
I actually took a federal income tax class that wasn't a requirement or anything, but
Mhm.
I figured I'll learn some stuff that I could apply to the VITA, and it helped me out there too.
Okay.
And then I figured some internships would probably be a really good idea too,
Okay.
in maybe both
Good
areas,
decision.
to that way get my feet wet a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
see what the financial accounting is like, and then see what the tax accounting is like.
Okay. Okay. Have you thought about maybe even pursuing to see, what the pay levels are on the various areas? That may be something that may be of
Yeah.
interest to you if you're motivated by money. Making a determination which one of those positions is going to pay better than the other. Have you given thought to what type of work environment you're going to be drawn to? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I want a really good one. Like the company I researched was Plant Moran, and they put a lot of emphasis on their work environment.
Mhm.
They made sure you understood that they were, stable, and the golden rule was what they had their environment by, which was treat others as you'd be treated.
Okay.
So they put a ton of emphasis on that, and they had some percentages to back it up. Like, they have a huge low turnover rate. That was one of the things they bragged about. They said it's one of the best in the industry. It's one of the lowest, and that was something that really caught my eye.
Okay. Have you talked to anyone at Plant Moran to see if their communication piece mirrors what really happens in the work environment?
I haven't yet,
Okay.
but I have the connections to do so,
Okay.
because I actually have a family relation that worked at Plant Moran, and he did taxes
Okay.
for a long time. He actually retired from there, so
Okay.
I could talk to him about it.
Mm-hmm.
And another family relation, my dad's cousin's son, he helps out with taxes
Okay.
in the tax season. He doesn't work for him full time,
Okay.
but he
More
does
of a
taxes.
consultant
Yeah,
type.
he comes
Okay.
in during tax season, so I can
Okay.
talk to him. And then I also have an old Little League coach who works for Plant Moran, and I met him at a diner one time, and he asked me what I was going to do, and I told him, I'm shooting to be an accountant. And he goes, oh, really? And he goes, I work for Plant Moran. He's like, you should give me a call sometime, and we could
Okay.
talk about it.
Okay.
So I could talk to him too.
There you go. Give me an example of a time that you went above and beyond a situation at work.
I would have to say it's with that budget.
Okay.
Because when Mona gave it to me, she was frustrated with it, so she just didn't want it.
She just dumped it.
She was like, this is the hardest project you'll ever do in your life. See if you can figure it out. And I honestly don't know if she thought I was going to figure it out.
Okay. Okay. And it was hard just because of how it was maybe how it was presented to you, or, I mean, what made it hard?
Everything, the money kept moving around, and the specific amounts were what they told you to move around, but that might not have came through on the paper as easily. So you didn't have a certain amount that it didn't just say this amount was moved here.
Okay.
You had to look at you had to find the number, the actual specific number that was moved through this was this balance, this was this balance, it was off by this much, that must have been what moved.
Okay.
And that made it tricky.
Okay.
And I did come to Mona and ask her a lot of questions, like, okay, this number it moved somewhere, but where did it go? And she was usually able to help me with that.
Okay. Which was good you had that resource person to do that. I think that's also good you got it down to $1, because I would have just wrote the dollar off. Oh. Explain to me the skill set that you have that maybe some other candidates do not bring to the table.
I have the tax experience. I
Okay.
view that as a big leg up because I've actually done some taxes, and it's also very client oriented. Like I've had customer service type interactions with clients because sometimes they're not always happy about how their taxes turn out.
Especially when they have to write the check, right?
Yeah, and then it's like crisis management time, how to calm them down. So that was good experience.
And was that experience learned working for the volunteer company?
Yeah, the
okay.
VITA. You know.
Okay.
Because a lot of the time, one time I had him, there's a specific example, a guy came in and I went through his taxes and he ended up owing money. And he actually said to me, he's like, I've never owed money before my taxes at all. He's like, are you sure you went through this right? And I'm like, yes, I'm pretty sure I did it right, but I will have Mr. Burgess, which was our site coordinator,
Mm-hmm.
like I'll have him go through it to reassure you of the accuracy of it. And he ended up, Mr. Burgess took him over and went through it, and he did end up owing some money. But the guy he's like, that doesn't seem right. He's like, I've never owed money before. And he owed like a good amount of money.
Wow. Wow. So something had to have changed in his tax
Mm-hmm.
environment that caused that. Okay, I don't have any other questions to ask you because it looks like we've gone through pretty much of the list.
All right.
Okay. It was good meeting you and visiting
Yes.
with you.
It was nice meeting you too.
And I take it that you mentioned this was your second year.
Mhm.
Is there other plans that you have to continue on? Are you looking to go to Ferris or
Mhm.
another college?
Yep, I'm looking to do the satellite campus type thing here
Okay,
through Ferris to
perfect.
get a 4-year degree in accounting.
Okay, okay. Are you looking then to work on your CPA, or is that too far out that you haven't given it any thought yet?
No, that's what I'm shooting for, CPA.
Okay. Okay, good for you, good for you. I have my daughter's friend is currently studying and taking the CPA exam.
Yeah.
And you have to have a score of 75 to pass. And her first test, she got a 74. Yes, yes. So I share that with you. So don't get frustrated because
Yeah.
it happens. So she has rescheduled that test to take in January. But she was all nervous about it, and we said, well, you'll do fine, and she gets the 74. You have to have the 75. So.
I like how they do it in parts though, how you can take a part and pass that part.
Exactly, and that's where you can focus your studying on, and she spent all summer working through that one component, and it was one of the hardest parts. But yes, that makes it very nice.
Yeah.
But it is a time commitment to do that. So, well, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
It was nice meeting
Nice
you, Ryan.
meeting you too.